Welcome to today's discussion on distributed learning environment. For example, when you are in a class, somebody is teaching to you, okay, and it is also possible to learn from multiple sources. In today's discussion, our focus will be on the distributed learning environment and other topics that are related to the multimedia development. The process of learning and motivation for learning are influenced by a variety of factors which are not necessarily accessible to analysis. However, these factors are in the semi-conscious or subconscious area of the human cognition. One of the essential components of the learning process is social interaction. The informal peer learning is as important as formal teaching. Peer learning is very important because it is not that you are learning things only from the teacher. Even when you are interacting with your colleagues, you are learning a lot. In fact, my experience is that nowadays learning means not essentially sitting in the class and hearing to the teacher. Apart from that, when you are participating in the discussions, you learn a lot of things. Your doubts get resolved, you get more interesting questions, your knowledge increases definitely, and it will enable you to look at the things from a different perspective. So, informal peer learning is very important, and it is as much important as formal teaching. When I say that the informal peer learning is as much important as formal teaching, what I mean is that you may be thinking that I am going to the class, I am attending the classes, I am getting good marks, I am hearing to the teacher, I am doing assignments in time, I am getting good marks, and syllabus I am completing, I am writing exams, everything is fine. But once you leave the class and enter the real life looking for a job or even establishing your own business, then whatever you learned in the class will not be sufficient. Hence, it is essential that not just learning in the class from the teacher directly, but it is also important that you interact with your peers. When I say peers, they are colleagues. Colleagues doesn't mean only your classmates. Yes, classmates are colleagues, and apart from that, you may have children who are studying in different schools in the same class, and even some children who are interested in learning things but may not be belonging to your same class. But also one thing is very important, that it is not essential that you always confine to whatever is there as part of your class. Once the discussion starts, the discussions may be even related to the politics, may be related to environment, may be related to social networks, many things, and your knowledge will increase multifold only when you interact. So, the process of learning and motivation for learning are influenced by a variety of factors, and these things cannot be just analyzed because people do not know what all is happening with any person apart from the recorded where the lectures they are attending and where they are appearing for the examinations. Lot of other activities are not known from where the student is learning, sometimes even without knowledge to himself or herself. Now, collaboration and multimedia learning is going to help a lot. Now, let us see some of the benefits of collaborative learning where multimedia is present. Multimedia learning materials are available in various platforms. Just like multimedia, a collaborative learning environment integrates text, graphs, when I say graphics, graphics is very important because that is what is really backbone for the multimedia, then audio and video. However, the traditional computer based training systems, which in short are called CBT systems, operate in standalone mode, that is user interactivity, is restricted to the CBT only, whereas the possibility to interact with instructors and peers is offered by collaboration using multimedia communication. So, by using a communication network and collaborative learning in groups is possible. The main elements of such kind of environment of learning are collaboration, which is very much important. The traditional CBTs, they require the student to work in self-study mode, but work without a tutor may be ineffective. So, instead of offering courses on a DVD or any other media, a new learning environment is needed which focuses on bringing several learners together for better attainment of learning goal. Communication should be possible in any direction. Learners can ask their tutors or talk to other learners. Now let us look at the distance cooperation. The collaboration of such kind have no geographical boundaries. The only mean required is the availability of telecommunication facility. The availability of telecommunication facility is a must for any collaborative environment. So, if you are collaborating from a distance, definitely technology is needed. Telecommunication facility is mentioned because even internet, some types of connections they run on the telephone. Yes, some types do not run on the telephone, but there are some types of connections which run only on the telephone lines. So, collaboration is a very, very important thing. And when we say collaboration from a distance, it means that you are sitting at one place and the person with whom you are collaborating is sitting at some distance. When I say distance, maybe another home nearer to your home, maybe another city, maybe another country or continent. However, it hardly matters because you are not sitting physically side by side or opposite to discuss the things. Once you are using technology to communicate, it hardly matters where you are sitting, from where you are intervening, because technology is reducing the distance tremendously and there is no need for you to know where the other person is present. Then it is also possible to have a deferred or a real-time communication. This system will provide possibility to communicate with the colleagues and tutors in a time frame which is not immediate. For example, a learner may be allowed to answer a question at a later time, maybe not on the spot. A new type of learning process may take place with benefits for some learning situations. So students can learn in a group situation, not in real time, but later allowing more contemplation and depth. So sometimes the student may be occupied or may not be in a mood to attend a class, understand. Under such circumstances, the lesson can be recorded and the student can attend to it later, and he will better respond whenever he can really focus on whatever is given. With multimedia, this is possible. For example, you have a website called NPTEL. NPTEL is a national program on technology enhanced learning or a technology enabled learning from the government of India. So here you can find many multimedia based lectures. You will learn a lot of things, and also you can find on the web some university lectures that are being recorded in the classroom. So the teacher is teaching to a student, to the class of students, and the lectures are recorded and they are streamed at a later stage, means the recorded lectures. There you get the benefit of even your peers asking doubts to the teacher and teacher clarifying them. Of course, in case you have a doubt, you can drop an email to the teacher or to the ID that is given, which will be attended to. But you can really see the real-time interaction when the teacher is teaching with such types of recorded lectures. Distributed data is something where, for example, if you have learning data such as learning material, videos, graphics, text files, then you no longer needed to be stored on the local computer. These things used to be earlier stored on the local computer, but they don't need to be. But they can be distributed over the network. All participants may share the same information which can be modified at a common place. However, a student should not be allowed to modify the data. So proper data security measures need to be incorporated for such learning. Then multimedia interface is very useful, and a usual way to communicate is to talk to and see our communication partner. This natural way of interfacing may be provided by multimedia environment using audio and video communication technologies. For example, let us consider a medical application. This is known as MedNet, a medical collaboration and consultation system. The basic properties of multimedia are that the delivery through multiple media with the use of communication technology make us realize that this application is a distributed collaborative application. Since a medical consultation system is extremely critical as a decision taken by doctors are life critical, therefore the data manipulations and user interaction in such a system are extremely broad and quite demanding. This application is a distributed multimedia based project which is being developed at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. At present, the system is used at 7 hospitals and many diagnostic and research laboratories. MedNet provides services such as a real-time monitoring and multi-party consultation, collaboration during the brain surgery. The intraoperative monitoring places a real-time control about the condition of the patient. MedNet is different from the other picture-taking teleconferencing systems as it provides real-time monitoring and collaboration. The term collaboration is one of the commonly used terms in multimedia applications today. The verbal meaning of this word is the actual meaning in the context of multimedia, that is collectively doing a particular work, but for this collaborative work, physical presence may not be required. MedNet is one application. There are many applications that are really helping the patients and doctors in real fields. Also, how can it be achieved by MedNet? As in most of the surgeries, the anesthesiologist, the surgeon and other supporting staff have to be present. However, the consulting neurophysiologists, who are normally difficult to find, whose presence is not necessary, may remotely monitor the case along with few other cases. He can see and listen the responses of the monitoring equipments on his screen, and in case of any problem, when the nervous system of a patient is being damaged, informs the surgeon who is performing the surgery. So with the limited expertise available, a lot of activities can be performed. However, the cost effectiveness of such a system cannot be ignored. Preparation for a multimedia script is a process of visual thinking or visualization. The dictum is think visually. In order to think visually, you need to create an overall conceptual design of the program that you are planning to make. Creation of mind maps of the content area is a good first step. However, the words in the mind map must synchronize graphically. When you have an idea, consider relating it to some graphics and see how the idea can be represented graphically. The process of visualization is basically section, creation, editing of images into a meaningful sequence. In reality, it takes a lot of practice to see the programs to be developed successfully. The script writing process has many stages. For example, program idea. The program idea needs to be discussed vis-a-vis the strength of multimedia. You must ask at the stage why it is necessary to have a multimedia program for a particular idea. Unless you get a justified answer, you just should not switch to multimedia. One very important thing is that just don't think that I have to use these technologies in my next idea, because it all depends on your idea for which technologies it is really susceptible to. So based on the idea, you have to decide whether you want to use multimedia or anything else. So before the idea gets cropped, don't jump into the technologies that are to be used. A thorough discussion needs to take place before the application of any technology to any idea, because using technologies that are not needed will dilute the idea. Now let us have the brief program brief. So in the program brief, what we will be doing is that the program idea needs to be expanded to include the title, target, audience, objectives and content outline. A rationale for the multimedia program and project beneficiaries is useful if included in the program brief. Now let us think of the research. It is essential to do research before developing any multimedia based thing. Planning and carrying out a thorough research on the topic of the program idea and the target audience will be useful in designing the multimedia. Identifying the relevant graphics content and experts on the program will be useful to consult and select appropriate content. Then we have to identify and select the content elements. Having done the research, it is appropriate to develop the best way or a sequence to deliver the message. Though multimedia provides the user with a hypermedia navigation opportunity, it is important to have a default sequence. The content elements can be visualized in terms of text, audio, video, graphics, animation and other things. Interface design and layout is very important thing. Interface design is one of the most creative stages of scripting for multimedia. Here the look and feel of the program needs to be decided. While deciding on this, it is important to keep in mind the target audience choice and the nature of the topic. There can be so many ways of designing the interface depending on the creativity of the designer. However, it is essential to decide on one layout design in the beginning and stick to that for uniformity, and also for the reason that the learners will not appreciate a different layout for all the different screens of the multimedia program. Now let us think of preparing the storyboard. The storyboard is a detailed shot by shot or screen by screen description of the program on a sheet of paper or card. The storyboard forces the scriptwriter to think in terms of multiple media use in a multimedia program. It is also a blueprint for action that can be given to a multimedia designer to execute as depicted in the storyboard. It allows working of different groups of people in the same project, developing different components of it with a similar design and compatibility. Let's now think of a systematic approach to prepare the storyboard for the multimedia. It is essential to prepare the storyboard to come up with effective multimedia based video or any other component. Before we start developing a storyboard, let us look at the various media components of a multimedia program. The multimedia being an integrated platform, it can deliver text, audio, visuals, that is video and graphics, animation, and also the interactive feature which is called navigation. So the storyboard should represent all the 5 components in a 2-dimensional page or card. Since multimedia is a hypermedia based system, we represent 5 different cards placed over one another to depict a single screen or shot of a program. Then we see a screenshot that has some visible texts, graphic visuals, which can be animated or static, and a navigation button. This frame might have some audio, but in the storyboard here it is not visible. When we separate the stack of cards, we will then see how various components are depicted in each card. There are 5 cards. The first one is text. You write down the text that you expect to go in the screen. Suggest any specific design feature, including font size, style and color that you need. Also suggest the placement of the text in small chunks of less than 200 words. This is important for the presentation of the text in a readable way. If it is essential to have more text, multiple shots can be used in continuation. Now let us go to the next card where you write the audio component. Audio is of 3 types: narration or voiceover or music and sound effects. So in this card you have to specify the types of audio to be used. As you can have 2 audio channels in one shot, it is important that you specify both audio channels. If required, use 2 cards for audio. Also specify the kinds of music you want and the kind of sound effects required. If you have voiceover, prepare the script of the voice and write it on the card. Then comes the visual card. A visual card can be of 2 types: static and motion. The former is called and the latter. In the visual card, you have to specify the kind of visuals and its placement on the screen. Also, it is very important to give a description of the graphics or video used. Then a description of what it will show, its purpose are required in the storyboard. Now let us think about the animation. There are various kinds of animation activities. For example, you can animate a text or graphics, or you can have a specialized animation program itself in the multimedia vision. The nature and purpose of animation needs to be explained in this card with specific movements such as fade in, fade out, zoom in, zoom out of different elements. The navigation is the mechanism through which a multimedia program moves from one shot to another. Being hypermedia based, the navigation actually enables the user of the multimedia to navigate from one shot of the multimedia to any other shot, provided it is designed so. The navigation plan can be designed through hyperlink from a word or a sentence or a phrase or from or graphics or a button for navigation. Some of the important navigation buttons are start or begin, and, next, previous or back, home. In the navigation card, you have to specify the type of navigation button and its action, what it will happen if it is clicked, such things. So if it is clicked, what has to be done, all these things are to be presented. The placement of the buttons or hyperlinks also needs to be specified. A multimedia program will have a number of screens or shots, and therefore organizing the cards is very, very important. So it is very much important to name the cards. For example, the first card can be named for the text of shot 1, then another card can be for audio of shot 1, then another card for visual of shot 1, and another card for animation of shot 1, and then another one is for navigation of shot, and also it is possible to have for text. So in this way you should be very clear what is for what, so that there is no confusion. The number of shots in a storyboard will depend on the content that you have and how you are presenting the multimedia. For an educational multimedia lesson, it is possible to suggest a few standard shots. However, the multimedia based lesson is also dependent on the instructional design that you follow for the program. Like some of the screenshots or screens are, one is title, normally referred as the home, which welcomes the learner, then introduction, which depicts the context and sets the tone of the program, then you have objectives, then you have contents or structure or index, then you have glossary, then you have references, then you have self-assessment questions. Now, apart from all these, the content of the lesson will also have a number of shots. Depending upon the requirements, the above shots can be depicted in more than one shot. Scripting for multimedia and preparation of storyboard is a highly systematic process and requires a certain amount of discipline to organize the cards. Analysis and breaking of the contents into smaller manageable chunks or objects will fasten development of the storyboard as well as the multimedia. A clear storyboard is the key to a successful and effective multimedia lesson. The storyboard should be reviewed by experts and navigation part to see the smooth flow of the multimedia program. Text is the most common medium of presenting information. It is also used to communicate a concept or as an idea. It should effectively complement the other media. Factors that influence the textual communication are typeface, font and style, kerning, anti-aliasing, animation, special effects, special characters and hypertext. While dealing with text in multimedia, it is very important to note that it is not the only means of communication. In multimedia, text is most often used for titles, headlines, menus, navigation and content. Overcrowding of text on a single page should be avoided. It is recommended that text should be presented in combination with graphics. Now let us see what are typefaces. Typefaces are broadly categorized into two types. You can have a serif and you can have a sans serif. Serif is the small decoration at the end of the letter stroke, which sans and is the letter without a decoration. These things, whatever I am telling you about fonts and other things, may be different whenever you are reading them and checking it. See, what I suggest you is that anything you learn, just don't believe immediately, but you go and find the latest things corresponding to them. Because based on when you are going through and learning, it really matters what you are learning, and if there are any advancements, you have to learn the corresponding advancements rather than studying the same things that may be a bit older. So while sans serif fonts are used for headlines and bold statements, others can be used for other statements. Now let us consider a font. A font is a collection of characters of single size belonging to a particular typeface family. Style and size are the main attributes of a font. Common font styles are bold and italic. Font sizes are expressed in the points. A point is approximately 1/72 of an inch. In the usage of fonts, it is recommended to vary as few number fonts as possible on the same page. The style, size and kerning may be adjusted as and when necessary. Anti-aliased text may be used for titles and headlines. Bold text may be more suitable for conveying an idea or a concept. Text can be made attractive and pleasing to the eye by choosing a combination of colors for the font and background. Care should be taken for selecting the appropriate type of font on menus and buttons, symbols and special characters. So in case you have any doubts on today's discussion, you can mail to pvsuresh@igno.ac.in.